Hello everyone, it's Rory at Culloden Painting Studio. Today we're going to look at painting this Dark Age Irish warrior from Wargames Atlantic using Citadel Contrast paints. I think the contrast paints are quite useful when it comes to models such as this, where there's not a whole lot of little details. We've got nice folds in the cloth, a lot of flesh, a lot of hair. And the contrast paint should work really well on these models. I've given this a spray with some Wraithbone contrast primer. And the first thing we're going to tackle is the flesh. I'm using Guilliman flesh. Unless I say otherwise, essentially I'm using all these paints straight from the pot, as it were. And we're going to start off coating the face. I'm using a size 2 brush. It's kind of my go-to for practically everything. On occasion I may swap down to a size 0, and that will just let me get some finer details if I feel that the size 2 is not going to work out for us. When the contrast paint goes on, yeah, it doesn't always look great. At the moment it's looking like his eyes are really shaded, but we'll give that a chance to dry and it should improve. We'll look at the hands, and of course on this model there's a lot of leg to do as well. Okay, so the paint's maybe just a wee bit thick on a couple of areas just on the shin. We want to keep it off the flatter surfaces, but I think that should do for flesh. As I said, we're going to swap between the model and the shield as we go. I have glued the shield onto a cocktail stick, just a wee dab of super glue for ease. The back of the shield, the nice wooden planks there, we're going to use Wyldwood. I'm not quite sure I can hold this without getting my fingers in the way. That's where contrast paints really come into their own, is when we have a surface with a lot of texture. It will just flow in there. Right, back to our model. We're going to swap over to Militarum green, which is a nice sort of fairly washed out green, which I think will be always a good one for Dark Age type models. A natural dye could quite easily make this green. So I start on this and I realise that I've missed his neck, so I will need to go back to that with the Guilliman flesh. However, we'll save that till towards the end, and that way we're giving the Militarum green a chance to dry and we don't blend it all up. Okay, right, nice straightforward coat of Militarum green. Ran into those recesses to deepen the shade there. Just a wee bit on his wrist just to put in. That's fine. Okie dokie. Now I'm going to look at his rather luscious locks. A lot of hair there. So I'm going to use Cygor brown on this one. It's a really dark brown. Right, back to the shield. The rim of the shield, we're going to do in Snakebite leather. Now, one advantage perhaps of putting this on the cocktail stick is that I can just hold the brush still, rotate the stick between my fingers, Sticking with the Snakebite leather, we have a belt. Next colour we're going to tackle is Basilicanum Grey. I'm going to use this for areas that would be metal. Perhaps you could just use a silver paint and wash over the top, but I just thought today we would work on all contrast colours. So there's a little metal band on the back of the shield as well, which I have done with the Basilicanum Grey as well as the shield boss. I'm not too fussed about the rivets in the band around the edge of the shield. Of course you could go back to them perhaps with a standard grey acrylic paint and dot that on. And I've got a sword. Perhaps I've gone a bit heavy with the paint there, so just dry the brush and it will just absorb off the excess. Okay, at this point I'm going to go grab a bottle of super glue, attach the shield to the shield hand and start painting the shield front. Okay, your shield has been glued on just with a dab of super glue. Now, I think one area where perhaps we do find the contrast paints are not so good is on wide flat surfaces, such as the shield. But I do think it is worthwhile having a look at the finished result. It is quick, but I would suggest that standard acrylic paints or, of course, transfers would be better. I've got some skeleton bone here, which is the muddy white colour, and we'll just do one half of the shield with it. Painting from the centre out is probably the best way to do it. The paint, if you plop it all on, is going to pool, and really you want the pooling at the edges to sort of look more like the natural shadow. Black Templar for the other half. There's our model. Pretty quick and easy to put together. Obviously some more drying time is needed. If we add a little tuft to the base, and then bring in his friends. I think the contrast colour's really effective on skin, hair, loose clothing, such as these Dark Age warriors all wear. We've got a mix of the Wargames Atlantic Irish, Footsore Irish, Gripping Beast, Plastic, and Victrix Plastic Viking. And I think as a unit, once all painted up, they all fit together really well. The main things you look at, I think, especially with any model, is the face, but with Dark Age models it's also the shield. They are just so big and a focal point that contrast paints probably aren't the best for them. I think it's super quick to do, but especially with the green in the centre, you can see where it has just pooled. Now that's because I didn't take as much care as I have with these other ones, where I started at the centre and moved towards the edges. So you probably can improve on that finish if you do so. But super quick to do, and you know, if you're playing a mass battle game and you need a couple of hundred of these guys on the table, it does not take long to knock out a group. And if you're batch painting, then you can probably get down to 10 minutes a model if you're just sticking to two or three colours as the main colour scheme for a whole group. So yeah, contrast paint's pretty good for Dark Age warriors, perhaps not so good on their shields. If you've enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and subscribe and share, all that fun. If you've got any comments, please drop them below, and we'll speak again soon. Cheers, bye bye.